Welcome to another FPL Gameweek 5 video. This is going to be the preview where I break down every single fixture. I talk about my score predictions as well as highlighting the best players from each individual match. I also show the best Gameweek 5 team you can make. So if you are using the free hit or thinking of using it, it would be ideal for that. And it also can give you some ideas of some of the players you can bring in. And what you see on screen is actually the best wildcard team you can make. It's a little preview. If you haven't already checked out that video, then you can do so. And I uploaded a best Gameweek 5 wildcard team, and that will be very useful for any of you considering to use the wildcard for the kind of medium to long term picks. We're going to be talking about the short term picks in this video. So without further ado, let's head straight into it. To kick off the game week, we have Newcastle against Leeds, and both teams have been very unimpressive, especially Newcastle, who defensively are right down there with Norwich, Arsenal and Burnley. But yeah, with Newcastle United, I do expect them to score, same with Leeds, but I think Leeds are going to edge this one. They're going to get quite a few goals, at least 2, and I'm going to go with a 3-1 victory for Leeds. So I'm really backing them to get the result here, and I think Bamford will be in and amongst the goals, and I think Rafinha, just like he did last season, maybe not to the same extent where he got a double-digit return, but I think he can do it once again at Newcastle and get the points. Moving on to the next game, Wolves against Brentford. I don't expect to see too many goals in this one, and I said the same thing last week when looking at Brentford against Brighton, and I'm going to pretty much go with a kind of similar prediction, a 1-0 victory for Wolves. I think Jimenez is going to score the goal, and I think Trincao could actually be doing really well in this match, whether it's an assist, some bonus points, or maybe both combined. And then Burnley against Arsenal. I mean, this could go one of many ways, to be honest. Burnley could even snatch a win here, possibly even a draw. I think that's a bit more likely, but I think Arsenal will win this. I don't know why I'm doing this, by the way, but I'm actually going to go with a 2-0 victory for Arsenal, and I think Ramsdale, if he continues to start, he could be a great choice as your 4.5 million keeper. So he's actually someone in my wildcard team I didn't discuss too much. So instead of Sanchez, you can always go for Ramsdale. But then again, I don't know if he's actually going to be completely secured, because Leno still has a lot of high ratings from the Arsenal coaches, and he has done a lot for the club in recent years and sometimes prevented some very big score lines from happening. But I think Ramsdale's one player to look out for. He could maybe get some save points bonus and a clean sheet. And I think Aubameyang, he's got a great record against Burnley, obviously taking the own goal aside. I think he could score here once again. Then we have Liverpool against Palace, a great fixture to target for the captaincy. There's Mane, there's Salah, there's Trent, there's even Jota. You could captain any of them and they could all do well, maybe even Robertson. I think this is going to be a standard win for Liverpool, despite how good Crystal Palace were against Spurs, where they had 20 shots, completely dominated the game and limited Spurs to only 2 efforts on target, or just 2 efforts really actually. I think I'm going to go with a 3-0 victory for Liverpool. It will be standard, and I think Mane will be the highest scoring player in this one, if not one of the highest, and he hasn't blanked in his last 8 games against Palace. It's just a team he loves to play. I would expect that to continue. Of course, Salah and Jota are obvious options, but I think as a differential captain, Trent Alexander-Arnold could be the one. So he would be the one I would highlight as a differential, but mainly as a captain. Of course, most people do have him, but maybe not with the armband on him. And then looking at City against Southampton, this could be a big scoreline as well. But I'm actually going to give a bit more credit to Southampton, and I think they might frustrate City at times, especially if the citizens don't have that cutting edge up front. But I'm going to go with a 2-0 victory. It could easily be 3 or 4. Of course, City can destroy anyone on their day, but I'm going to go with a 2-0 win. I think they'll be happy with that. And Torres, of course, if he starts, he is poised for goals, especially playing up front. And one to look out for, I think, is Gabriel Jesus. I think he can do really well against Southampton. And of course, not to mention the kind of defenders with attacking potential like Cancelo. I think he could be exceptional in Game Week 5. Looking at another game, with 2 newly promoted teams, we've got Norwich against Watford, and this could go either way, of course. And Norwich did really well last season. They were even better than Watford, but I don't know, there's just something about Norwich in the Premier League, they just don't seem to translate it too well. Then again though, this could go either way, and I'm not really too sure about which team is going to win this one, but I'm going to slightly edge towards Watford. I'm going with a 2-1 victory. I think Sarr will be the main man, and he could be fantastic in Game Week 5. And another kind of player I want to highlight is Emmanuel Dennis. I think he could do pretty well. But honestly, looking at the Watford options, I'm not really too convinced by them. There is Backman in goal. If you back them for the clean sheet, no pun intended, I think he could be a good choice. But I'm going to go with Sarr. I think he's going to be the standout in this fixture, and he definitely has the highest expectations placed on him. Looking at Villa against Everton, with Dominic Calvert-Lewin out, Everton can still score plenty of goals. They made an impressive comeback against Burnley, and Villa just haven't really been on it this season. Watkins was looking really lively against Chelsea, and to be honest, I have to say this, Villa were very unlucky not to score against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, but then again though, over the course of the season, I just haven't seen enough from Villa. Of course, in Game Week 4, there have been some encouraging signs, and I would expect their attack to gel and improve as time goes on. But I think Everton are going to win this one. Just about another 2-1 victory I'm going with for Everton. I think Richarlison is one to look out for. He's going to be the main talisman with Calvert-Lewin out. And then Watkins, he's the one I'll be highlighting who maybe not many people are thinking about, but his performance against Chelsea really encouraged me, and I think he was very unlucky not to come away with more points. Looking at Brighton against Leicester, this is a very interesting one. This could easily be a 2-1 to either side, but I'm actually going to go with a 1-1 draw. I think Harvey Barnes will finally score, although I don't think that's enough reason to keep him in your team for the long run, but I think he will score. And another player I have a gut feeling about, I don't know why, is Danny Welbeck. Maybe it's because of his late winner for Arsenal against Leicester all those years ago for the title race, but I think Welbeck, maybe even Malpai could score the goal there for Brighton. But yeah, I actually picked out Trossard last week, and he scored a late winner against Brentford. So some of the players I highlighted were actually doing the business. It's just a shame my kind of scoreline predictions, other than maybe Chelsea 3-0 against Villa, the rest was pretty poor, to be honest. And I think I actually said 3-0 if Lukaku starts. It would be 2-0 if he doesn't. So good thing that Lukaku did in the end. But yeah, here we go. So West Ham against Man United. With Antonio out, I just don't really see a way for West Ham to win this game. Otherwise, maybe it would have been even tighter, and West Ham could even sneak a draw or a win. But I think United will be full of vengeance after their defeat to Young Boys, and of course that red card by Wan-Bissaka changed the game. I think United are going to score plenty of goals. I'm going with a 3-1 victory, so a bit similar to what happened last year at the Olympic Stadium. Ronaldo, of course, there's no reason to talk about him. I think he's going to be a great choice for the captaincy this week. And Greenwood, the reason why I highlight him, obviously he's not a differential by any means, but the fact that he didn't start against Young Boys, I just think it places him in a very good position to start at the weekend. And because of that, because he's probably going to be fully fit and charged, I think he can do really well in this game week. Of course, very lucky to even come away with any points against Newcastle, but I think he can do well here against West Ham. And then lastly, we're looking at Spurs against Chelsea, probably the biggest game of the weekend, and two London clubs who hate each other. And wow, so many memories over the years, especially in FPL. You know, you're looking at Marcos Alonso mainly. And funnily enough, I mention him. I think he's going to be the standout player from this fixture. I think if he starts, he can get a clean sheet, he can get bonus points, and even a goal or assist. He's got a fantastic record against Spurs. So he is my pick for this. And I think the other fullback, Reece James, if he starts, he could also be a fantastic outlet for Chelsea. And I think that's where Spurs are going to struggle. And I don't see a mauling or a battering from Chelsea, but I think they'll do enough to win pretty comfortably. I'm going with a 2-0 win for the Blues, and Spurs can still score, of course. They've got plenty of quality like Son and Kane, but I think Chelsea's defence is just too good, and they have a much better team overall than Spurs, also a better manager and tactics. Spurs can sometimes be so defensive and be focused on just not conceding. So if it were to be a 0-0, I wouldn't be completely surprised, but at the same time, I would be surprised if Spurs scored a few goals and won the game. That would be completely shocking to me, but I'm going with a 2-0 win for Chelsea. Marcos Alonso, remember the name, of course, and Lukaku, no doubt he can score against Spurs. There's no doubt about that, but let's wait and see what happens there. Then again, I don't think his ceiling will be too high, but Marcos Alonso, I think he has so many avenues to points that this could be a great fixture for any of you who have him. Now looking at the top 5 captaincy choices before moving on to the best team you can make exclusively for Game Week 5, so for the free hit, I would probably just rank it like this. You know, there's not much between these options, and you can always go for one maybe in a higher position. But in 5th, I'm going to go with Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think he's got so many avenues to points, just like Marcos Alonso. But because I'm more confident in Trent and Liverpool keeping a clean sheet than Chelsea, that's why Trent features and not Marcos Alonso, and I think he's just a great choice for the captaincy this week, and not maybe too much of a differential as he normally is. In number 4, I think Ronaldo is just a great choice. West Ham isn't the easiest fixture, and they've been pretty decent defensively. Then again, though, they've had some pretty easy fixtures in the first 4 game weeks, but I think United will score a few goals, and if they do score 3 like I predict, then Ronaldo will surely be involved. And then in third place, I'm going with Ferran Torres. You can also say Gabriel Jesus, but I'll go with Torres. If he starts, he's a great choice, and even if City only score 2, as I predicted, I think that Torres can be getting both of the goals really. And of course, the problem with City is rotation and so many different players can score, but I'm going to be a bit risky here and go with Ferran Torres in the top 3. Of course, arguably, you could go for Ronaldo and Trent ahead of him, but just to change things up a bit, because what is my top 2? I've got Mohamed Salah in number 2, and that might sound a bit weird to you because this is the week where he's going to be the standout captaincy choice, and if you don't captain him and he hauls, your rank is going to suffer severely. But I've actually gone for his fellow winger from Liverpool in number 1 because of Mane's record against Palace. I just have a great feeling about him doing well once again. Of course, his finishing against Leeds was very concerning, and Mane hasn't really been the same player over the last year or so, but he's still done well against Palace, including in Gameweek 38 last season, and I think he can do really well once again. Of course, Salah has penalties. He's a more reliable FPL asset, so Salah is a better option than Mane, especially long term, no doubt about it. But in terms of this fixture, because it's Crystal Palace, I'm going for Mane in number 1, but there's really not much to split them. You can always go for Salah there, and it's up to you. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. But as you can see, very Liverpool-centric this, with that fixture against Palace, who have been good this season, but Liverpool should be winning that, and I think they've got plenty of options who can do well. In terms of differentials, of course, I've highlighted some of them before, but Gabriel Jesus and Marcos Alonso, if you want an ultra differential who can do really well, despite most people really looking at the fixture or the player and thinking, I don't really see points happening this week, I think them two can be the standout. So Marcos Alonso, of course, he faces Spurs, a tough game on paper, but I think he can still do extremely well, maybe even double digits, who knows. But of course, we'll have to wait and see. Stranger things have happened. So what you see on screen is the best team you can make for Game Week 5, and of course, as always, there are different ways you can go about it, and if you don't trust one player, you can always replace them for someone else. The same goes for if you don't have the budget available to attain this team. And in goal, someone actually pointed it out in the last live stream, so shout out to those who did shout out Ramsdale, because obviously 4.5 million for an Arsenal goalkeeper is very intriguing, a bit similar to Martinez when he was kind of bursting onto the scene pretty much, 2 seasons ago now. But yeah, Ramsdale I think can do well against Burnley. I'm not too confident in a clean sheet for Arsenal, and obviously you see here I've got Ramsdale and Ben White. I definitely wouldn't double up on them, but Ben White would kind of be a bench option, and if you don't want to go for Ramsdale, I would thoroughly recommend Backman this week. And if you have enough money, Jose Sarr at 5 million, I think you could even double up on Wolves defence. I'm probably a bit more confident in Wolves keeping a clean sheet than Arsenal, but yeah, Ramsdale, Backman, Jose Sarr, take your pick. Otherwise, you're mainly looking at Edison or someone else who's really expensive to really make the goalkeeper position worth it. Sanchez has a difficult fixture against Leicester, looking at that, so I probably would steer clear of him on a free hit. And yeah, remember, Steele is just a 4 million option. You can get anyone you want really, and it doesn't really matter. Looking at the defence, Ben White, of course, is in there. He's 4.4 million. I think he's a decent option. But yeah, you don't have to go for him. And I wouldn't start him and Ramsdale in the same team, of course. The kind of starting 11 for this team would be Ramsdale, Trent, Marçal, Cancelo. Then it would be Torres, Sarr, Jota, Salah, Rafinha. And then up front, Ronaldo and Bamford. That would be the starting lineup. So a 3-5-2 formation. But of course, you can always maybe make a change or two here. Marcos Alonso, someone I've been raving about in this video. You can always go for him as well. Maybe invest a bit less money in your midfielder attack and put that into your defence and have 4 at the back. Play Marçal, Cancelo, Trent and Marcos Alonso. That's something you could do. But yeah, Trent is going to be a no-brainer. He is in my top 5 captaincy picks for the week. And then, of course, Cancelo, someone that I've mentioned in the Southampton game. I think he could do extremely well. He's got so many avenues to points, a lot of attacking potential. Marçal, of course, he did really well in Game Week 4. I don't expect him to do that most weeks, and even in Game Week 5, I don't expect another double-digit return, but I think he can tick along nicely. He's got a good chance of a clean sheet, and maybe, just maybe, he'll get an assist or something like that. So that's why he's in there. And at 4.6 million, he's the best value option at this moment in time, especially looking to the long term. But of course, remember, this is a free hit team, and Marcel, he would feature in my wildcard team too. But remember, with all these players, it's mainly focused on Game Week 5 only. Then you have Ayling, of course. I don't trust Leeds enough, and I probably wouldn't be looking to triple up on them. Of course, I've got Ayling, Rafinha and Bamford, but Ayling would be on the bench. Still, he's got a bit of attacking potential, even more than years gone by, and I think Leeds could keep a clean sheet, especially if Callum Wilson is out. Then looking at the midfield, Rafinha, one thing I would say about this team potentially is going with Rafinha and Bamford when Leeds haven't really shown enough this season. But still, they've got the fixtures, and Newcastle, with how bad they are defensively, I think the double up of Rafinha and Bamford could work really well in this week, even if it never does in all the other game weeks combined. But Rafinha, very good choice at 6.5 million. And of course, you can always go for Traore. He's also got a good fixture against Brentford, but I prefer Rafinha. I think he's just more reliable of an option with better end product. And then we've got Salah, no-brainer. You can always go for Mane. Of course, I highlighted him as the best kind of option this week. I just prefer Salah overall. I'm more confident in Salah hauling. The reason why, obviously, I mentioned Mane in first place is because his record against Palace is sensational. But would you really go for Mane over Salah? I don't know. I think it's just way too risky, even though I back Mane to do well this week. And you can always go for him instead of Salah, of course. Take your pick. On a free hit, you're kind of allowed to get away with some of these kind of different picks. But if you do go for Mane and not Salah, and then Mane blanks and Salah does the business, you're probably in a really bad spot. Obviously, effective ownership does come into the mix, but up to you who you pick. I probably wouldn't go for Salah and Mane, to be honest. I just think it's way too much money, even if they both could get double-digit returns, but it might be slightly more unlikely. And then Jota, I think he just offers great value, of course. I would rather have a double up of Mane and Jota, or Salah and Jota, than obviously Salah and Mane, as I discussed before. And I think Jota will finally start getting the goals and assists that he probably deserved from the Leeds game. Ferran Torres, someone I kind of highlighted as a captaincy option against Southampton, and of course, a lot depends on if he's going to start in the Champions League. So if he does, then maybe I'd be a bit concerned about Ferran Torres, even in this team, and maybe I'd look elsewhere, maybe to a Traore or someone else. Could invest the money in the defence or attack, of course. And then Ismaila Sarr against Norwich, great fixture, and I think Sarr can be the standout option around 6 million in this game week. I think he's just got everything. Norwich, they just didn't convince me against Arsenal, and they conceded a lot of shots. They conceded 30 overall, and they didn't really offer much going forward anyway, so Watford could mainly be the ones attacking. But then again, I look at Watford, and it's something I've talked about all season. I just don't trust Watford enough to bring myself to invest in Sarr, Dennis, and all these other players who are obviously good. They've got decent end product, but Watford are a very iffy team, very inconsistent. But for Game Week 5 specifically, if you are free hitting, I would still recommend Sarr. I think he's a good option, but obviously long term, I probably wouldn't be thinking about him too much. And then the attackers, Scarlett is there. He's just bench fodder. Forget about him, really. We've got Bamford. I think he's going to score, maybe even get an assist. Last season, obviously, some of you will remember, he got substituted just before the 60th minute at St James's Park, and it was Rafinha who got 13 points, I believe. But I think Bamford will right those wrongs, and I think he'll start increasing his goal tally for the season, and he'll do well. And then it goes without saying, Cristiano Ronaldo, of course. You can go for Lukaku. He's got Spurs. I think Chelsea could score a few in that game, potentially, but United are more likely to score 2 or 3 than Chelsea are. And West Ham, I think without Antonio, are going to struggle even more. And Ronaldo, of course, is Ronaldo, and he can score against anyone. He's got a good record against West Ham. So this is the team I'd go for. And of course, there's different ways you can go about it. If Ferran Torres starts in the Champions League, you can get rid of him. And maybe instead of Rafinha or Bamford, you can just displace them for someone else. Maybe Jimenez instead of Bamford. I actually backed Jimenez, or I still back Jimenez to score in Game Week 5 against Brentford. So different ways you can go about it. Let me know what you would change with this team. And if you enjoyed this video, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. And thank you once again for all the support, reaching 5,000 subscribers and 500 followers. All the very best of luck with Game Week 5 and also in UCL Fantasy. Of course, that's been kind of up and down so far for me at least, and I'll be talking about that in future videos. And of course, there'll be more live streams to come, including reaction streams and deadline streams for FPL And in UCL Fantasy, I'll be doing the deadline streams as I did for Matchday 1. Thank you very much. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.